Hello and welcome to a special Olympics edition of Starside Chat. I am one of your hosts, Aaron, and with me, as always, is Zach. How's it going, Zach?
Good. I was going to say, before the Olympics started, it was like, I don't know, Christmas in July vibes. So I was going to say something about like Merry Christmas in July, but yeah, Olympics, that's also happening.
It's happening. We aren't really aware of anything that's going on, or at least I'm not. Have you been watching anything?
Have not been following the Olympics at all.
But it is happening in the world to timestamp this.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess put that on your radar as far as when this episode was recorded. But
the other thing that's happening, and there aren't a ton of video game related things with it, but San Diego Comic-Con is happening. So there's a lot of movie and television news this week, but we're not probably going to talk about most of that. We're mostly going to talk about video game stuff because we have been playing a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, we got a lot of games that you and I have been playing that we can really deep dive into this week, and that'll be kind of the main thing since there's sort of not a lot of gaming related news this week. But the one thing I wanted to ask you about, and we were a little bit talking about this before we started recording, but how is Robert Downey Jr. going to return to the Avengers series of films as a villain after playing Tony Stark?
That was the big reveal. They talked a lot about what's happening in the Marvel universe. I don't think there's now going to be a movie called The Kang Dynasty because that guy went to prison or whatever. So now it's going to be the next Avengers movie is called Doomsday. And they revealed in a very dramatic way. They had all these people come up on stage dressed as Doctor Doom. And the main guy was like, well, only one person could do this. And then everyone kind of moved to the side and a robed figure walked up to the front and took off his mask. And it was Robert Downey Jr. And we were talking about this before we started recording. When I first heard this news, I was like, okay, this is like a multiverse thing where in another reality, maybe Tony Stark became evil for some reason. And that's why he's Doctor Doom. But it seems like his name is Victor Von Doom, and so I don't understand why that is the case. Like, why does he look exactly like Iron Man? It's a weird choice, I think, unless there's something I'm not understanding.
I initially thought the same as you. I was like, well, maybe they're just like, oh, this is a multiverse thing, and Tony Stark was like evil, and I don't know. Maybe they're still going to play that up, and Victor Von Doom will be like, he changed his name or something like that, because it sounds like not a real name, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like they're gonna have to comment on it, like the characters in the movie will have to be like, man, he looks a lot like Tony Stark, what's going on?
Yeah,
but no, I don't know.
Also, I mean, I guess like the Avengers now are different people from or I think that's what they're setting up. Like Spider-Man is still an Avenger, but nobody knows who Spider-Man is because of Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is still an Avenger, but like, who are the new Avengers? I feel like there are new ones that we are not aware of.
At least 3 of them are dead now, so they cannot be Avengers anymore. And so Captain America will be a different person because the previous Captain America was dead. Tony Stark is dead, and what's her name is also dead.
Black Widow.
Yeah, Black Widow. So that's 3 of them gone for sure.
So some Avengers, some current Avengers won't have a personal connection to Tony Stark, but they will be aware of what he looked like.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, everybody would have known what Tony Stark looked like, regardless of whether they were among the Avengers or not, because he was like a well-known figure in the universe. But I feel
a weird choice.
It's sort of, I don't know, it stinks of... They are desperate to get somebody recognizable that people will be like, oh yeah, I'll return for that. And he's like somebody that people know and love from this universe already. And so they're like, well, we got to get him back somehow. And they're like, well, just make him a villain.
I saw a funny tweet that was one of those things where it's like fake dialogue that's happening. And it was like Kevin Feige being like, you know who would be really good as Doctor Doom is that guy from Oppenheimer. And like the second line is like Kevin Feige's assistant being like, okay, I got it. And obviously you picked the wrong one because I think that Cillian Murphy would have been a great choice.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Not a member of the MCU yet, also.
Yeah, not somebody who has already played one of the heroes of the MCU.
Yeah. Possibly the biggest person in the MCU. Like, I could see them. Another thing I saw was like, well, people were like, who'd be a very good Victor Von Doom is Mads Mikkelsen. But too bad he was already a villain in the MCU, so they can't reuse him. But guess what? I guess you can reuse people now.
Again, like, it would have made sense if they pulled some sort of weird multiverse stuff, and maybe they're still planning to do that, but, like, his name would have to be the same.
Well, I wonder if maybe it is an alternate timeline where when Tony Stark was a baby, he got...
Oh, they're going real far back.
Yeah, he got kidnapped by Hydra or something, and this is a Tony Stark where he never got named Tony, or they changed his name.
He grew up in the Von Doom family.
He grew up in the Von Doom, and they're like a legacy in Hydra or whatever. I don't know. Contrived, I think.
Yeah, I feel like this is just a desperate way of pulling in fans again because they're like, hey, we got Robert Downey Jr. back. We know you like him. We've really not done well ever since he left. So here he is again. Please come back to our movies.
Very weird. I could not have predicted that announcement.
No, and honestly, it's a little bit like the reaction has to be similar to like when Nintendo was like, "Hey, here's our voice cast for the Mario Brothers movies."
Chris-san.
Wait, what?
He's so cool.
I guess that's a choice. All right.
Well, as far as video game stuff, there is some things to talk about before we start talking about what we've been playing. The first thing, you sent this to me. I forgot this was happening, so I was not anticipating this trailer, but they finally released a trailer for the Amazon Like a Dragon Yakuza show, and it looks pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a teaser. They're sort of intercutting it with seemingly shots from the game as well, at least at the beginning. But yeah, I mean, it's got the look down. We were texting about it, and we were like, "Are they going to pull in some of the crazy like side stories and side quests? Like, will that group of like the diaper wearing people show up in an episode of this? Like, how are they going to do that?"
Like, I think in a previous Yakuza game, you could have a real estate empire. But like one of your real estate brokers could be a crawfish that you have befriended, and he could be a top seller for you.
There's just so many crazy directions they could take it, and I'm really curious if we're going to get any of that. But
yeah, like there's so many things from those games. Like I wonder if the main character will have to like deliver packages or like do RC car racing or something. I feel like that is such a core piece of those games. It's just like the weird side missions you go on. They'd be crazy not to do that. I mean, I guess they could just go straight crime drama and it would be fine. But I feel like the real charm of those games is all of the side missions.
Yeah, I feel like if they wanted to go straight crime drama, they could have done that spin-off series of games. What was that called? I forget the name of it. But there was like a Yakuza spin-off series of games. I think they made 2 of them. That was more or less just like a straight crime drama type of thing. And I never played them, but if you're going to do Yakuza, you really got to go for it.
Yeah, you got to go crazy.
Have like an episode where he gets like sidetracked by the Sujimon League.
Yes.
Like just do something really out there with it.
If Sujimon make an appearance in this, it'll be a top 10 show for me.
I mean, I can't even imagine what that would be like. And
to see that in real life, yeah.
Imagine the people like that don't know the series that are like, oh, cool, just like a Yakuza series. I'm down to watch that, like a gangster Japan gangster series. Let's watch it. And they tune in, and they're all of a sudden these people run around wearing diapers, and you're like, what is going on? The fans will love it, but everybody else will be like, what is this series?
No, I'm not super caught up on the like where this slots in, because this I would assume is its own original story. It's not going to be like the story of Ichiban, right?
No, I think this is about Kiryu. So
Okay.
it would not be. That may be the one thing is it will not be about Ichiban and the people from the more recent games.
Very interesting. I'm excited to take a look at this. I have Prime, so when it comes out, I will definitely watch it. The other thing to highlight, the other news item that happened this week is that huge mod. It's a fan-made, unofficial mod for Fallout. Fallout 3, I think, is what it runs on. Fallout London is released. Totally free, because it is just a mod. But it's like a top-down, completely new city with new missions and things like that. There's an interesting... So instead of a Pip-Boy, you basically just have like a computer that functions as a Pip-Boy. It's just like a little tablet, basically. It's very extensive. So, like, if you were watching Fallout, the show, and you're like, man, this is great, and you played through Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, and now you're like, what else can I do? This is something else you can do. You can check out Fallout. And this, again, it's not canonical. So, for the Fallout series of games has never left America. So, we're not really sure what happened across the rest of the world. So they were free to take extreme license with all of their lore and plot details. So who knows what is going on in England, but it's technically in the same universe, although nothing will ever be substantiated from it in like other media. But it looks pretty cool. It's like very polished.
It does look very polished. I almost think this might be on Fallout 4, maybe?
Yeah, I think you're right, actually. Watching this, I think that is correct.
But yeah, I think it would be so cool to have a Fallout game set in someplace other than the US, just to like get some of that side of the story, but also just to get some like really different backdrops to sort of, explore. But I almost think Bethesda should just be like, hey, great job, guys. We're gonna pay you for this, and we're going to like release this as like an official thing. But like you said, who knows whether they got the lore stuff right and what the liberties they took there were. And
well, famously, so when they were making the Fallout TV series, there was an interview with who's Christopher Nolan's brother? What's his name?
Jonathan Nolan?
Yeah. There was an interview with Jonathan Nolan where he was like, yeah, like Todd Howard was involved in this, and like I know where the next Fallout game is set, because he told us like these are the things you have to avoid because we're going to be writing that into the next game. So like it's in production. They know where the next Fallout game is going to be. I would bet it's not London, but I don't know where it would be. I mean, we've never seen like a Midwest Fallout, so that would be interesting to me. It's only been the coasts. But this looks great. You also, there's a bulldog, there's like a little bulldog companion that's very cute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does look crazy. It's insane that they were able to pull this off. Like, I don't know how long this took them, but this is very extensive and very impressive to look at. So, but yeah, it's crazy to me that they already, like, I guess somewhere within Bethesda, there is a team just like scratching notes down and like working on stuff. But like, it's not due up until after Elder Scrolls, which
that's true,
is probably in its like early stages of development still, because they just launched Starfield and they have like a bunch of DLC stuff they're doing for that. So I feel like that is many, many years away.
I agree.
And that it would be smart of them to like, even if it's just remasters or I don't know, some sort of cool re-release of like Fallout 3 in New Vegas, if they were able to do that. Just like, I don't know, don't let the flame die down that much that you take like 20 years between games. But I feel like that's sort of what we're in for as far as official launches go. So I guess if you really want some Fallout, you're not going to get any new Fallout anytime soon. So this is something to check out for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, check it out. I think it's pretty easy. There's videos online of how to like install this mod. I think it's pretty straightforward to do. But yeah, people seem to really like it. So check it out if it's not on your radar. There's some great trailers out there where you can kind of see the scope of it. It is insane how big it is.
Yeah, it's definitely worth looking up a trailer if you're a Fallout fan, because it's very impressive to see. Any
other news items? It's kind of a news light week. Kind of a period of time in the summertime where there's not a lot going on before like the September releases.
Yeah, we're in a weird phase right now because it's still middle of summer, but we're creeping up on the fall, and things are gonna start dropping a lot more. I feel like here in the coming weeks, because you almost always get like an August release that's interesting, and then September is when sort of fall game season
big
starts.
Stuff hits.
So yeah, but we do have some games to talk about, so we can jump into that. I know you've been playing a game called The Case of the Golden Idol.
Yeah, so I resubscribed to Game Pass, which is different now. They made those Game Pass changes where there's Game Pass Core, which is like $9 or whatever, and then Game Pass Ultimate. And I think you get some games with Game Pass Core, like specifically multiplayer games, I want to say, because it's more geared towards people that want to play online together. And Game Pass Ultimate is the one where you get a ton more games, but you can subscribe for just $1 for 14 days. So I did that because I wanted to check out No Man's Sky, this new big update, which we can talk about in a second. But the other thing I saw they just added was The Case of the Golden Idol, which has been a game on my radar for a while because a couple different people on different podcasts I listened to recommended it. And it's basically, it's almost the way I would almost describe it is like narrative Sudoku, where you are presented with a not a static image, but because people are like moving around in it kind of, but they're not really doing anything. And you sort of just have to investigate the image. And down in the bottom, you typically 3 different modules, I want to say. So the first module is and it's all like fill in the blank kind of with nouns kind of a thing. So like the first module is, blank through someone else, like blank killed blank with blank when blank happened. So there's a bunch of blanks in the first module. The second module is who is everybody. So it's like a picture of everyone's face, and then you have to kind of pick out who is who. And then the third module is something extra where you have to fill in. Typically, it's like something within the scene, and you're like filling in the blanks. But you sort of have to. It's one of those things where, like, similar to Sudoku, or one of those things you used to do in math class, where like 5 people are going to the picnic. Like Jennifer is taking something that's red. Richard is taking, a banana. And then like you have to kind of figure out by process of elimination who's taking what in one of those like cross-examination things. But it's very fun. It's fun to play with someone. I've been playing with my wife, and we've been it's fun to just like kind of sort it around, and they get more and more complex. We're still, I think, on the first like chapter of it, because you go in like different books or whatever. And it starts out, the first one is kind of a tutorial where it's just like one scene, and then it gets progressively more complex where like you see a scene and then you can click an arrow to like go inside the building that they're in front of. Or like the one we just got to is the most complex scene, where it's like you're in a house, you're in the foyer, and you click the right button, and now you're in like the kitchens, and you click the up button and you're sort of in some disused rooms, and then the left button, so it's like a square kind of, and you're sort of having to figure out, in every scene someone is dying basically, and what you're doing is you're following the path of this golden idol, which seems to be cursed and also seems to have like special powers. And there's a through line plot where, like, if you remember what people look like, you can kind of, that's like a freebie, like someone in the previous one, had a specific looking face, and he maybe changed his name in the next part of the story, but you still know it's the same guy. It's got a very interesting art style where it's kind of drawn. It's like a very unique art style. But yeah, it's not typically a game that I would check out, but I like interesting puzzle games, and this is definitely a puzzle game like I've not played before. And I would say the one bad thing about it, the one caveat I would say is it's probably a lot better not on Xbox because it is basically clicking a lot. Like I have a mouse on screen that I'm moving with my analog stick, and I think it would be probably more playable on PC, like mouse and keyboard, or even frankly, and I think this does exist, I think it's on iPad. I think it would be a great iPad game because it is just kind of pointing and clicking. It's fine to play on Xbox, and I think it's on Switch as well. I think it's on everything actually, but I do think it's better on platforms where you can either you have a touch screen or a mouse and keyboard, because it is like a lot of clicking around, and sometimes it does a thing where it tries to like intuitively autofill things with like first and last name, where like you'll pull up the second thing, which is like a spyglass icon, I think, where it's the thing where you have to, set everyone's names. And so you can click first and last name, and it sort of tries to do first and last name right, like left to right. But if you're clicking around too much with the controller, it sometimes can fill in the wrong one, or at least that happens for me. And you have to go back, and it's like not super intuitive how do you erase stuff initially. But it's really fun, and it's free if you have Game Pass. And it also makes you feel very smart when you solve something. Like when you get everything right on one of those bottom modules and it turns green, you're like, oh man, I'm super smart. Or another thing that'll happen is you'll get almost everything right, and it'll say like 2 or fewer mistakes. And then you can kind of, by process of elimination, figure out what you got wrong. But a couple of them, we were just able to like immediately be like, okay, here's this symbol, that means that guy is this guy, so on and so forth. And when you fill it out correctly the first time, you feel very satisfied.
Yeah, it does look like a really different take on like the point and click adventure.
Yes. Yeah, it is. I think it is, because there's not so much, it's not a thing where you're exploring. You're not a guy clicking around and you're like, oh, if I put this fish in this wallet, it will turn into a key that I can unlock a door, basically. It's not like a Secret Monkey Island thing. It's very much like a series of puzzle stages, kind of like there is a story, there's a through line that I think is getting more complicated, but it's not your typical point and click adventure. It very much is a puzzle game. I've heard it described as very similar to the Return to the Obra Dinn, which I have not played, and that is for some reason less interesting to me. I think because there is a moving around element. I don't know. This one is kind of just all laid out before you, so you don't really have to worry about missing something. You like everything that's interesting has a little question mark on it, and you click on it, and you can click into it and see like if someone's holding stuff and whatnot. Whereas I think the Obra Dinn, I've not played it, but I think that has more of an investigative thing where you have to walk physically around a space. And I don't know, maybe I would enjoy it. I might check it out after this, but if it comes on Game Pass. But I would recommend this even if you aren't really into puzzle games. At least try to get through like the first 2 stages, and that's when it really like clicked for me, as that second stage where, because the first stage is sort of someone getting the idol for the first time, and it's teaching you about like, here's this scene, here's what you need to figure out, here are the modules. The second scene we had to sit on for a while because we didn't really understand what was going on, but once we figured it out, that's the one that really clicked for us and was like, okay, this is the game and this is how you play it. And it was very satisfying.
Yeah, I've heard good things about it. I remember back when this originally came out, it was like among the games a lot of people were arguing for Game of the Year. Yeah. Just because it's such a unique, like crazy sort of game that you're not used to playing, but it's also like very good. And so, yeah, people seem to like it a lot, but it does seem like the type of game that would be best played with a mouse and keyboard.
Yeah, and there's a sequel coming out, too. They announced a sequel, I think during this Summer Games Fest, maybe? It was recently. But yeah, I recommend this. And I would say even, like, this would maybe even be something good for, like, parents. Like, I was going to recommend it to my mom, because she primarily will play games on like iPad. And I think this is a very good game for someone who is like a crossword person or like a Sudoku person, but it's much more visual and kind of makes you think in a different way.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll play this just because I don't know if that thing is up my alley. But if you can download it on Game Pass, maybe it is worth like checking out sort of the intro of it and see if it hooks you or not.
Yeah, I would say give the first 2 levels a try if you're going to do it, because the first one is definitely a tutorial, and the second one is really where you have to sort of think about it and start to put things together. But yeah, that is primarily what I've been playing. And then I played a little bit of No Man's Sky, but I had a little bit of start and stop with it, because if we want to transition over to No Man's Sky, I was playing it, and then I realized I was on a planet that didn't have any water or anything, so I didn't really know what was going on. But you texted me like, oh, I guess the patch isn't out yet for Xbox. And I was like, okay, I'll hold on. And then we got kind of a false start where we're like, oh, it's coming out today. And so I started a new game because I also wanted to try out that like streamlined mode.
Which, by the way, you don't need to start a new game for.
Oh, really?
You can just go into the settings and there's like a difficulty setting, and you can like toggle off like hazards so you don't have to deal with like weather effects, and you can like you can basically make all purchases free, and you can remove the need to like find resources to craft stuff. It's just
that's interesting.
So you can like toggle around all of that stuff, because when I got back into No Man's Sky a couple of years ago, we actually did a video where I was sort of introducing you to a game that's up on our YouTube channel. And at that time, I had put in like probably over 100 hours on my PC save, and had a great time with it, was really into it. And so I'm just coming back to it, but I've been playing it on PS5, and I was like, you know what? I did all that stuff before. I kind of don't want to mess around with all of this. I want sort of a faster, more easygoing version of this. So when I got back into it on PS5, I like played the relaxed mode and just went into the difficulty settings and made purchases free and stuff like that. And so now I'm just like flying around. I got like a really cool, crazy ship that's like S rank, and I've got like all this cool stuff. And I'm just like, it feels nice to like, you should have the base experience for sure. But like, if you just want to start a new save and just like get going much faster and get all the stuff you want without like a really grindy time getting there, you can just like toggle off some of that stuff. And I do a little bit think that that's like, because of how random the game can be at times, like one thing that a lot of people do is they will hunt for like an S rank freighter. And there is like this really cool sort of pirate freighter that you can find if you like jump to pirate systems. It looks really cool, and it's like very large, and you can, some people will just like figure out where one of those will spawn, and then they will just like reload a save however many times it takes for them to finally get an S rank one. I'm just like, I'm not going to worry about that, especially if like you need to like buy like a crazy ship or whatever. It's just like, I'm going to just have my purchases be free on this save, and then I don't have to worry about, oh, I found this really cool S rank thing, but I can't afford to buy it, so I'm gonna have to just let this go. I'm not gonna deal with that. I'm just gonna for that save. But yeah, now the expedition is out. And so it took a little while for some reason to get the update on Xbox and Switch. I was a little bit curious whether they would actually get the update out on Switch, but they were able to do it. And so, yeah, now it's out on everything, and the expedition launched as well. I don't know if you got a chance to jump back in since the update happened. No, I'm still on
my second save, so I have not checked out the expedition yet.
Yeah, so don't keep restarting. You can just go into your settings and edit stuff as you want, and just keep going with what you've got, so that you don't have to just continually restart. But yeah, you can also take your existing like main save if you want and do the expedition from that save as well. You don't have to start a new save. You can start a new save, but I actually didn't realize that initially. So I started a new save for the expedition and started doing it. And then I saw other people were like, yeah, you can just go to the anomaly and there's like a little kiosk that you can interact with to jump into the expedition from your main save. And if you do that, you can actually like take some technology and some resources and put them in like a little box basically that you can then once you get into the expedition and you fly out into space, you can bring up the anomaly and go back into it and you can grab that stuff and it sort of gives you a little bit of a head start. And supposedly, I think you should be able to, once you, like the expedition ends, you go back to that kiosk and you're like, okay, I'm done with this. I want to return to my regular part of the universe that I was exploring, and it'll send you back. And I think you should be able to grab like the multi-tool and the ship that you had from the expedition at like the cost of like nanites or something like that.
Okay.
So you should be able to pull some of that stuff over, but also like when you complete the expedition, you just get like, there are like the rewards that you get from completing it that you can also, there's like a different kiosk I think you go to that you can claim the expedition rewards. And I think some of them are like these cosmetic things. It's like you kind of look like a bug, but you get like armor that you can get. And there, I think there's also like community rewards. So there's like these community milestones. I think this is supposed to run until like September maybe.
Okay.
And there are like 4 or 5 different community marks, but basically the expedition is a combat focused one where you're running around shooting, I forget what they're called. It's like these bugs basically that will pop out of the ground when you go to certain areas. But also you can find like this vile brood queen that you can summon and fight as well. And so each player can do, I think it's like 50 or maybe it's 150. It was unclear to me because I think if people have been saying you can do 150 per day to count towards that community goal. And then it like cuts off. But like when you look in game, it says like 50 and counting for your total. It's weird. I don't really understand. But basically, you're doing your part is what it says. It's very inspired by Helldivers, but also what is the name of that movie?
Oh, Starship Troopers?
Yeah, Starship Troopers. Because every time you interact with a console, and it's like, I'm doing my part. So it's very inspired by that, which is funny because like No Man's Sky is obviously, they pull in a lot of references to other sci-fi media. So like there are portals in the game that are basically stargates, and there are living ships that you can find that are basically references to Farscape, and the different freighters in the game are inspired by different media as well. Like there's one that looks like a Star Destroyer from Star Wars, but so there's a lot of stuff like that. There's also a frigate that you can get that is just the Normandy from Mass Effect. But I think that might be tied to another expedition. And I've heard that they rerun the expeditions as well. So if there's one you missed and you want to get the rewards from that, I think they're going to rerun them over time. So I heard later this year, you're going to get an opportunity to run some of the other expeditions if you missed them, which I have. Obviously, I played the one a couple of years ago when we did that video, and that was very fun. And it got me really hooked on the game. But then I fell off and haven't played it since then until just recently. So there's plenty of... I think this is the 14th expedition, so there's like I've only done 2 of them, so I got a lot of expeditions to play, I think. But yeah, I've been playing that. It's been very fun, and it's been fun to sort of build up all my ship, my multi-tool, and my freighter as well. But I have taken a break from doing that so that I can run the expedition on my main save now. So that I found my first Sentinel ship, which is very cool. I think they're some of the best designed ships in the game. They really look cool, but there's a lot of new stuff in the game since I last played. We were talking offline about it, and I was like, we almost need to do like a refreshed video about introducing a new player to No Man's Sky.
Yeah, we should.
Since that was like 2 years ago, I think, and just going back to rewatch some of that, like even the menus look a little bit different. Like your technology and your storage space are now on, I think, the same screen instead of like tabbing over, which is how it used to be at the time of that recording. But it is like there's a lot to it. There's a lot of systems. There's a lot of things to learn about the game. But like as you figure it out, it all makes sense and is easy to like, I don't know, navigate. But it takes a little while to learn it all.
Yeah, I'm excited. We should definitely do that kind of compare contrast video from our last one. I am also interested to know about First Descendant, which you have picked up.
So it is a free-to-play looter shooter that I saw somebody playing it on Twitch, and I was like, that looks fun enough. And so I downloaded it on PS5 and started playing it this last week. And it's very Destiny. Like, it's basically a third-person Destiny style, like, looter shooter game where, like, in between missions, you're going back to this, basically the tower space that's, like, the social hub. And you'll talk to people, and they'll give you quests to do, and then you'll go out into sort of, what are those, public zones or whatever, that you'll run around and you can interact with something to start a mission, and you'll see other players running around and you can help each other out doing stuff. But
you said this was, though, you're not like your own character, though, right? It's like pre-made characters?
Yeah, it would be better if you could make your own character, but there seems to be 3 classes and they're 3 pre-made characters. And so far, I've not found the abilities to be as interesting as they were in Destiny. So that's a little bit of a bummer, but I don't know. They're trying to tell some sort of story with this, and I'm like Destiny. It was like, whatever. Like, your storytelling efforts are whatever. I'll just play the game because the movement and shooting is fun. And so that was sort of as much as I got out of it so far, but it looks pretty good and it plays pretty well. It's just I don't know. It's getting mixed reviews on Steam. I think some of that is because of like, what are these extra files in my download sort of thing. So be aware of that, I guess. But
does it have microtransactions?
That is the other reason for the mixed reviews. I think some people have been complaining about microtransactions. I haven't made it far enough into the game to get to a point where microtransactions are like blocking or impeding my progress, which could be a thing in this game. But yeah, I don't know if I'll keep going with it or not. It was just like a random thing I downloaded and tried out. I was like, yeah, this seems fun enough. But right now I'm so hooked on No Man's Sky that it's, I don't know, difficult to convince me to do anything else in terms of games. But also, we were talking about this before we started recording. We have been talking about the Sun Eater series that we've been reading.
Yes.
And I made a little bit of progress, but I've really fallen off reading because my spare time has been devoted solely to No Man's Sky at this point. I need to get back to it so that we can keep progressing through that book and talking about it. But
I had so much forward momentum reading the first one. I read it in like 2 weeks or something. And then this week I've just been doing other stuff in the evenings. And also we've been checking out that Case of the Golden Idol that I just like have not had the time. I'm like 2 or 3 chapters in, but I am excited to dive back in. I just need to start doing it. And then all I need is that like one time when I sit down, and it will probably just pull me back in and I'll read for a ton of time.
Yeah. I'm enjoying that book. It's not because I'm not enjoying it. It's because I've just gotten sidetracked by other things. So I will get back to it eventually. But yeah, do you think you'll jump back into No Man's Sky at all?
Yeah, now that the expedition is live, I will probably just abandon my because I think I'm only on like the second. So I did find out that it does always kind of put you in the same type of area when you start out. It'll always put you on a place where there's an impending storm, because it has you do some things, it has you find the ship, and then it's like, okay, you need this, like a sealant or something. You have to go, like, call for help. Okay, there's like another base close to you, and then as you get to the base, a storm approaches, and it's like you got to take shelter. So you can go inside the base and hang out for a while, and then it teaches you some more stuff. But I basically did that twice. And then I got to the second planet in my second save, and that's where I think it teaches you about how to make a base, where it's like teaching you about, like, okay, this is your, this is how you make like like walls and a floor and whatnot, and collect these these blueprints. And so I started doing that, and then the expedition became live. So I think I'm just going to go straight to the expedition, because I think I get the main mechanics of it now. I think I've pretty much done with the tutorial. So I'm excited to do that and dive back in at some point this week.
Yeah, as long as you understand the sort of the basics of how some of those systems work, I think you can jump into the expedition and you'll probably have a more fun time with it, because it's a little bit more guided, and it speed runs your sort of experience as well, because it's giving you like a bunch of blueprints and a bunch of like inventory space and all of this as you go. Mm-hmm. And so you really rank up your multi-tool, and you get all kinds of like technology that you can install on it to make it better in like a much faster way playing through the expedition than you would just doing a normal save and playing through that way. So, and by the end of the expedition, you can actually convert your expedition save into a normal save, and so you can continue on from there. So I'd almost say if you're just starting now, it's probably worth jumping in and getting through sort of like the initial hours of the tutorial to learn how the basics of the gameplay works, and then jump into the expedition, complete that, and then by the end of it you'll have like a character that's pretty kitted out and ready to go for like the rest of the game. Because you have the option to like find a freighter. It probably won't be a good freighter, but you'll get a freighter, or you can get one, and then you can get like the Minotaur, which is like a, what do they call it? Basically, it's a robot that you can summon to follow you around and help you take out enemies, and you can actually jump into it and maneuver it and take out enemies using its weapons and stuff like that. So it's like useful to have. And of course, you level up your multi-tool and get a bunch of inventory slots for your exosuit as well. So that's fun, and it'll be a good way to sort of get you a good base going to jump into the full game. You just have to remember, so as you are completing objectives that it gives you, you hit the start button basically, and you tab over to the expedition page, and there's like a bunch of different expedition related quests and objectives to complete. And as you complete those, you go into that page and you click on the ones that you've completed, and it'll give you all of those rewards. And then you can go into your suit menu and start applying those technology upgrades. And yeah, it'll tell you sort of where to go for the next like rendezvous point, basically. And so you and everybody else who's playing it is just like continuing along this path that is sort of predetermined for the expedition, and you'll sort of make the next drop point, and you go in there and interact with it. And yeah, it's very combat focused as well. So you'll be doing a lot of combat with this, whereas I think in the main game, you may go long periods of time without doing a whole lot of combat unless you are actively looking for it. But
do you get multiple guns, or is it just the one gun?
you can have more than one multi-tool, but you will only have one of them equipped. But you're pressing triangle the way you, or Y, I think on Xbox, the way you would in like a normal shooter to swap weapons, but you're just like swapping the fire mode of the multi-tool you have equipped. And so it's switching between like the mining laser to gather resources, or the terrain manipulator to like, I don't know, dig in the ground, or switching to your weapons. And so you have all of those on the same multi-tool. You're just hitting the Y button to switch between them. And I think you can also hit circle, so you have like a secondary fire or secondary ability on that. If you hit B or circle, depending on what controller you're using, you swap between your secondary fire modes, and then I believe it's the left bumper would fire off if you have like a grenade of some sort to use that. That's how you do it. Any other questions about it? I can give you the tips that you need to get started.
So would you recommend, you said it gives you a frigate. Would you recommend getting that frigate or holding out for, can you have multiple frigates?
You can only have one freighter. And on the freighter, you can buy multiple frigates, and then the frigates are the ones that you send on these little away missions, and they sort of happen passively in the background. But
okay.
I grabbed just the first one that became available, because I think after you make like 2 or 3 jumps, you'll encounter a freighter that's like under attack from pirates. And if you fly around and take out the pirates, they'll hail you and be like, "Hey, thanks for doing that. Come aboard and meet with the admiral." And you'll fly in there and talk to him, and he'll be like, "Thanks so much for saving us. Would you like to own this freighter?" And you can be like, "Yeah, sure. I'll take it for free. Thank you." And it probably will be a C rank freighter, because I did it twice, I think, and only saw a C rank freighter.
Yeah.
And it's like, I find it better to have a freighter, even if it's a C rank, than not have one. So you might go ahead and do it. Just take it to have it.
Sure.
But it's going to be like during the expedition, it's not going to be your focus, really. It's really just like an extra place to like drop storage items if you need extra storage. Otherwise, you're probably going to be flying around with your ship. And like, I did jump around using it because I was afraid I was going to get too far out of range and it wouldn't have the capacity to be able to call in. Another very useful tip between the freighter and your starship, if you're just like on a planet roaming around and you're gathering items or whatever, just use the D-pad to go, I think it's down, and then you cycle over. You can like summon your ship to you, as opposed to having to always run back to it if you get out of range and you need to like stash items on it. So definitely make use of that.
Interesting. Well, maybe next week I'll have, I think I'm going to check out that expedition this week, so I'll have my perspective on it next week.
Yeah, I almost think it would be fun if we got on a call and did like a recording of us like talking through the basics of starting the expedition.
Yeah, I'm into that.
That would be a fun thing to do. So maybe we will have that on our YouTube channel. I guess we'll talk about it next week. Why don't you give us your parting wisdom?
Zach, I want to talk about hot dogs for a second.
Okay.
I like hot dogs. A long time ago, I went to Michigan to visit a friend of mine. And we went to a trendy bar. It was very cool. It had like a glass garage door that opened up so you could like eat outside. And I got a kind of hot dog I had never heard of before called a Sonoran hot dog. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
I had not either, but I remembered really, really liking it. I didn't really remember what its deal was, but I knew it was different than a regular hot dog. And I was reminiscing on that, and I was like, I wonder if there's a place around me that makes that type of hot dog, and there is. So I went there and I got it. And a Sonoran hot dog is a hot dog that is wrapped in bacon, and it is put into this like really good bun that almost is like a French style baguette, where it's like crunchy on the outside but chewy on the inside. It's got like pinto beans, as well as like there's like some Mexican influences where it has like crema on it, and also like a tomato salsa. It's a lot of flavors, and it's very messy to eat, especially if you have a beard. But it was very good, and I will probably get another one at some point soon.
It seems like something you put in a bowl and eat with a fork or a spoon. And
it maybe would have been cleaner to do that, but I just ate it with my hands. But if you are a person who likes hot dogs, and maybe you only ever get like, regular hot dogs or like chili dogs or whatever, take a look and see if you can find some place that makes a Sonoran hot dog, because it's a crazy plussed up hot dog that I recommend, and I think everyone should try.
It sounds like something from Star Trek. Oh, the Sonarans made their own hot dog. Why don't you try it?
Get me some like Klingon wine and also a Sonoran hot dog.
Yeah, that's what they ordered at 10 Forward. On that note, why don't you go ahead and follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter at Starside Cafe, and leave this podcast a rating if you're able to do that. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.